For sake of time this year, we're skipping example 3. We're going to go ahead and jump to the diagonals of a rectangle theorem, and because it's a theorem, I once again am going to highlight this so that it's easy to find. It says if a parallelogram is a rectangle, then its diagonals are congruent. If a parallelogram is a rectangle, then its diagonals are congruent. That means that AC is congruent to BD. In example 4, Paul is training his horse to run the course at a pace of 4 meters per second or faster. Paul rides his horse from D to C to E to B in 1 minute and 30 seconds. The figure ABCD is a rectangle. Did he make his goal? If we look at our rectangle, here are the things that we know. This is 192, this is 80. We could also say that this is 192 and this is 80. If I create a triangle with one of the diagonals, I know that I can use a squared plus b squared to find that diagonal. So 80 squared plus 192 squared equals c squared. That is 43206. 4 equals c squared. And taking the square root, we get x equals 208. 208 divided by 2 equals 104. So that means if I add the other diagonal, that I've cut this in half, and this is 104, and this is 104, this is 104, this is 104. Let's take a look at what Paul did. He went 192, he went 104, and he went 104. So now we can just add those together. 192 plus 104 plus 104 equals 400 meters. So Paul went 400 meters, and it took him 1 minute and 30 seconds. So let's change that all into seconds, and we know that he went 90 seconds. So he went 400 meters in 90 seconds, which equals 4.4. And since 4.4 meters per second is greater than 4 meters per second, which was his goal, then we can say that yes, Paul made his goal. Pause your video, do the try it, and come back to check your work. Go ahead and walk through this, try it. If you did this completely on your own and you were not confused, you can just fast forward until you check the answer and move on. If the rectangle has an area of 1,600 meters and is 4 times as long as it is wide, then we would call the wide x and the length 4x. And to get area, we do base times or length times width. So that means that we needed to do 4x times x would equal 1,600. So 4x times x is 4x squared equals 1,600. We'll divide both sides by 4. X squared equals 400. Taking the square root of both sides, we get that x equals 20. So if x equals 20, then that means that 4x equals 80. So we know that the side lengths of our rectangle are 20 and 80. So to find one diagonal, we're going to go ahead and say that 20 squared plus 80 squared equals c squared. That's 400 plus 6,400 equals x squared. Taking the square root of both sides leaves us with x equaling 82.46. So if one of them is 82.46, we know that the diagonals of a rectangle are congruent. So the sum of the diagonals, that's going to be both diagonals, 2 diagonals, would be 82.46 times 2, and that is 165 meters.